Hello, how's it going? So, I meant to start this about 40 minutes ago, but took a little bit more setup than I was intending to do. But I think I have a good way to do this right now. So, phone's not going to be beeping at me the whole night. Like my music's at a good level, and I think my voice is at a pretty good level. I should just double check though, because I'm always a little bit nervous about that. How's that sound to me? Oh, not bad. Cool. I hear myself though. Good stretch. Also, it's kind of wild weather here in Montreal right now. Like been kind of rainy since this morning, but the kind of rain that instantly freezes when it touches anything. So stuff's been covered in like piles of ice building up all day. So I wanted to use this to do this with a website called 17 Lands, and it's a tool for Magic Arena drafting that records your stats, your win rate, your card rate, how often you pack one, pick one, leads you to winning your matches and stuff. And I wanted to do tier lists with this because I like the tool, I like the tier listing. I can pop a nice big image up and stuff. But they're not quite updated with the new spoilers for March of the Machine, the new set. Here, let me just make sure my windows are good. Those two are good. My Twitch, I should actually make sure I'm in the right page and everything, and my stuff is set to the right game and whatnot. March of the Machine. I did tier lists. So obviously this isn't out for another week, but I wanted to kind of get some practice in because I haven't really been forcing myself to keep up with the physical releases, but this is the first one I think I can really go to, and I've been planning for it. So whereas the last two I did do some drafts and stuff, but it was kind of spur of the moment, like, oh, I'm free this weekend and I know the store is doing a draft, so sorry, I should also take But yeah, if you see me like look up and go, whoa, it's because either a bunch of lights turned back on in the neighborhood or a big chunk of ice fell off the building one way or another. I don't know if this is going to show up super well, but I'll put it up on my phone because I'm lazy. But a bunch of these beautiful trees here in Montreal were exploding, breaking, because they're all coated in like, hey, just about a centimeter of ice, which is a lot. lots of people's cars getting trees dropped on them and roadways getting blocked and stuff. It's pretty wild. A couple buddies watching the trees on their street kind of fall down slowly and snap power lines and knock their power out. So it's been an interesting day. Alright, so what I figured I would do is I'm gonna just look at a single card from this column with this magnified view, so it's a little easier for you guys to read, and I'll read out what the card does. So I can even go to, oops, there we go. That's not bad. So for example, I go color by color because I wanted to make a tier list that had S to F with 3 tiers for each letter in between. But Tier Maker only lets you do 10, which is a little bit less than I needed. So cards that I'm going to call B- or C- are just going to be B or C. But there is a plus category, so I'm going to keep that.
Hello, Cleo. What's up, kitty?
Cute. Yeah, I'll bring up this specific card. I'll talk about it. And I'll put it where I think its rank is for limited ranking purposes. And I'll do each of these colors. White, blue, black, red, green, gold, and colorless, which will include the lands. It also wouldn't let me put all the images in at once, so I had to split it up by color. And yeah. I think overall this set looks really good. It doesn't look too aggressive, but the power level on a lot of cards seems high, so there's probably going to be a lot of good use of these cards outside of the limited environment, which I'm not really going to worry about, but I may mention it that, like, Alesh Norin looks busted as a Pillow Fort commander or something.
What you want, Cleo? What you want, huh? What you want? You cute?
But yeah, let's start it off. I'll start with Alesh Norin because that's the big bad one. So she's a 4-mana 3/5 white Phyrexian Praetor, legendary creature. Vigilance. Whenever a source opponent controls deals damage to you or a permanent you control, that source's controller loses 2 life unless they pay 1. And then you can pay 2 and a white to sacrifice 3 of the creatures, exile her, and return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control, and activate only as a sorcery. All the Praetors in this set have this kind of dual side card, where there's the Praetor on the front, and on the back side is a Saga, which ticks down to 3, and then it flips back to the front side, which already is very strong, because that means every couple turns you're going to get a very powerful effect on the backside, which not always, but most of the time will quite strongly win you a game.
What you want, Cleo? What you want? You just want nuzzles and touches?
If I go sit down, couch or the bed, she doesn't want to come cuddle with me. She only wants to cuddle with me when I'm specifically streaming, because I do work and stuff on my computer, and she doesn't bother me then. But anyways, so sacrificing 3 other creatures is sometimes hard to do, but doing it to get to her backside effect, to get flipped to the Argent Etchings, is very, very strong. It should at least replace all of the stuff that you used on the front side to get to the back side. Being a 4-mana cost, she doesn't have as much of a board impact ability as some of her older printings do, like Red Cenobite, which is fucking impressive as all hell, and Mother of Machines is not as oppressive, but still very strong. So Alesh Norin On the front side, pretty good. 4 mana, 3/5 with vigilance and a stacked effect. It's okay. And then Argent Etchings on the backside. So when she flips, you get to incubate 2 5 times, and then transform all incubator tokens you control. So incubator tokens are these 0/0 little eggs that you can pay 2 mana to flip, and they'll get however many counters they had on the front side and turn into a creature. When you incubate 2, you put 2 counters on it. So what she does when she flips is immediately puts 10 power on the board, 5 2/2s, which isn't that big, but you can often do this after you swing or right before the end of your turn, because this can only be done as a sorcery, so you gotta do it on your turn, unless you have something that gives you the ability to make it flash. And then when it comes back to your turn, you draw a card, and that's when you put another counter on the saga. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and double strike till end of turn, which turns all your 2/2s, which is 10 power, into 3/3s, and you're swinging in for essentially 12, 18, 24, 30. So it's pretty good. And then one more turn goes around, when you get to draw and put another counter on it for the saga, destroy all other permanents except for artifacts, lands, and Phyrexians. Exile Argent Etchings and return to the battlefield. So you get to put Elesh Norn back out again. So put a whole bunch of stuff on the board. You have a huge boost, and if you don't kill that person when you swing for 30, then you wipe the board, and you get her back, and you get to keep all your tokens, assuming they survive the combat and stuff like that. And then you could immediately do it again, because you probably still got some tokens left. So you pop it, flip it, get some more tokens, get to do some more swings. She's absurd. Very, very good. Front side is not that exciting, but getting to flip it and loop this is a really, really dumb stack of effects. And if they don't kill her or remove it or just kill you some other way, like, she'll take over the game. So I'll call her A+, because she's not busted, but if you don't answer it, you will lose. Just make sure I can find her. Blind, and these look tiny. There we go. So, Elesh Norn, the Argent Etchings. Honestly, I'd almost call the Argent Etchings like an S tier, but it's obviously attached to Elesh Norn, so. Right. Archangel Elspeth. Ooh, cool art. There's so many other stuff in this that I can't count directly as limited either, but will definitely take effect in limited sometimes, because there's here, let me just show this off a little bit too. So other than all the regular cards in the set, you get stuff like these guys, these multiverse legends that may also show up in your regular packs with these special printings. So they have all of the original Praetors: Vorinclex, Urbrask, Sheoldred, Jingataxius, Elesh Norn, and Slithrix. And the special thing with these is they're done in their original set's fancy printing, like the Expedition lands or these New Capenna gold trim stuff, or some of them didn't have them, like the original Praetors didn't have special printings, they just had foils or something. So instead they just get this fancy one that came from the last set. But there's a lot of spicy stuff in there. Croxo's great, not great limited, but still really good. Ragavan is like a $300 card. This printing of Ragavan is like a $300 card. and fucking great. It's such a good card. And then you got all the Ikoria guys. You get Kenrith and a bunch of the adventure things, and some stuff from Strixhaven. They're not all rare and mythics. Some of them are uncommons and commons and stuff, but or like Yargle, whatever. But very good cards, and they will definitely show up in drafts sometimes. They're all good. Some of them aren't as playable in limited as like Yarok or something. 3 color, 5 mana that only doubles ETB triggers is not always relevant, but it's a very good card, and if you can play it, you should. Death Touch Lifelink, 3/5. Oh, excuse me. Some upsides is very strong. There's also a lot of fancy printings of the cards that are in the set, and some of these do follow the same same things as their home planes. So you get the God cards from Theros that have these constellations, the Strixhaven legendary spellbook cards with the kind of stained glassy looking effects, adventure cards that make them look like a storybook. Yeah, lots of good stuff. Not all of them are available in the regular draft boosters. You gotta buy collector boosters and stuff for some of them, but some of these do show up in the draft boosters, and they will become a problem. So, next card, Archangel Elspeth. Legendary Planeswalker Elspeth, 4 mana, 4 loyalty. When she comes in, you put 4 loyalty counters on her. Pay 1 to get a 1/1 white soldier token with lifelink. -2. Sorry, +1, not pay 1. Plus -2. Put 2 1/1 counters on target creature. It becomes an angel in addition to its other types and gains flying permanently. Okay. And then -6, which is usually you would consider a Planeswalker's ultimate, because you don't always reach it, and they generally just give you an emblem or do something really stupid. So when they're kind of reachable, like a -6 when she starts out with 4, is not hard to reach. And her ability is to return all non-land permanent cards with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Limited, that could be very good. Depends when you draw her, of course. Like if you draw her and play her on curve, it's not going to get you anything, so it's not even worth doing it. Just make soldiers, pump soldiers, and just keep using her as a body generator. But she's very good. She doesn't have any removal, which normally the best planeswalkers have protection, so they can either make a creature or stop your opponent from attacking or redirect attacks or something like that. Removal, to remove a creature from the opponent's side of the board, and then game-winning ultimate. And those are the 3 things that make the best planeswalkers. Stuff like Ugin or Chandra Torch of Defiance or other stuff like that, they tend to be the strongest ones, and tend to be supremely dominating when they hit the board. If somebody doesn't kill them or get rid of them right away, you kind of just win really fast with them. So, but this one is very good. 4 cost is pretty cheap, and her abilities are strong, but she doesn't have any removal, and she can only make a 1/1 for protection. But that is her plus, so you're going to definitely do that constantly until you have a bunch of flying 3/3 soldiers with lifelink, or a graveyard full of stuff that you can pull it all back. I would give her a solid A, maybe A-, just because the ultimate's conditional kind of thing, and she doesn't actually have a removal, so she just makes bodies, and pretty good. Like, I'm happy with 1/1s that block and gave me some life in a limited game. And if a couple of them survive, I get to make them bigger. That's totally fine. There is a +1/+1 counter kind of mechanic in this set too. I think it's green-white and maybe a bit of green-red. So There are things that synergize well with her. I should also note one thing you could probably see here from your little tiny, super tiny card view that I can't even read. I have included the colored battles and the cards that transform into Phyrexians that are usually multicolored on the back, because they don't require colored mana to play them on the front, since you have Phyrexian mana available as well. But they tend to be a 2-color card on the backside, so I'm not particularly worried about that, since you don't actually have to pay colored mana to get the backside, which is multicolored. So I've considered most of them to be white on the front, for example. So Elspeth gets an A for me. The next card, Monastery Mentor. I love Monastery Mentor. This card was from Fates Reforged, I think, and it became one of my instantly favorite cards, and it's probably the archetype I play the most in a lot of non-limited formats. Is Jeskai, Prowess, Spellslinger, blue, white, red, lots of instants, combos, stacks, and really good synergy. Yeah, Monastery Mentor is a dope card. 3 mana for 2/2, which is not a great rate, but his ability is really good. Prowess, already super strong. Every time you cast a non-creature spell, gets +1/+1 till end of turn. Whenever Monastery Mentor sees another non-creature spell get cast, he makes a 1/1 creature token with Prowess, so he multiplies very quickly. So if you play him, play a bunch of combat tricks, play a bunch of removal, artifacts, enchantments, as long as they are creatures, they will add to his effect. Generally, those kind of things in Limited are a little harder to pull off. You can't always put 30 spells in your deck, for example, because you just don't have that many cards. And your Limited deck is 40 cards, usually 15 to 17 of which are lands. Roughly 15 to 16 creatures, and then maybe 8 or 9 non-creature spells. If you're playing a deck like this and you got lots of draw spells or a really low to the ground deck, you can get away with more, especially if they're like cantrippy draw spells, like pay 1, draw a card, gain a life kind of thing. But unfortunately, despite this card being amazing, you don't get as many triggers off of this as you'd like, unless you've got a really good loop stuff going on. But if you can land him and you have a deck that works with him pretty well, or a way to get back some of those non-creature spells, you're in a really good spot. But as that is I'd probably have to give him a B or a B- in Limited, just because you won't always be able to trigger him the way he wants to be triggered. And a 3-cost 2/2 is not really super exciting. Even if he gets bigger, even if you make some bodies, it all depends on how many times you can trigger that. And I don't think he's that great in Limited, but you probably take him because he's a good value and it's probably worth some money. And if he's your pack one pick one, make a white deck. Make a deck that works with him. You'll be able to do it. The white cards are very strong overall in this set. So. All right, Progenitor Exarch, this spiky kitty cat here, which is right there. So Progenitor Exarch is an XX and white spell, which means for the X values in spells like these, you have to pay the same amount of mana for. So it has to be 1/1 white, 2/2 white, 3/3 white, etc., etc., etc. This card is probably the best card for the incubate style decks, because I don't actually think that style of deck works so well on its own. incubating, as said before, is you incubate X 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you get a token as an egg that you can pay to flip it, and that number that incubate was incubate 1, 2, 3, 4. It gets that many +1/+1 counters on this egg. So then you have to pay another 2 mana to flip it into a creature, and it becomes a 5/5, a 2/2, a 1/1, or whatever. This guy, every time he incubates, you get an incubate 3 and X times, however much you pay for X. So if you want to get 1/3/3, you pay 1/1 white. You get this guy, and you get incubate 3 token. And if you did 2/2 white, you get 2/3/3 incubate tokens, and so forth and so forth. It gets really expensive to do more than 2, I'd say. But his second ability is probably the one I think is one of the better parts of that. You just tap him to transform an incubator token. You don't have to pay mana for it. You just tap this 1/2 that you're definitely not swinging with unless you got a bunch of counters or equipment on him or something like that. Generally, that's all you're going to do. Make a token, tap this guy, flip the token into a creature. You play another card that incubates 4 or something, so you get a big token out. You tap this guy, you transform that token, you don't have to pay any mana for it. This is the card that makes a lot of those decks work much better, because often I find the incubate tokens are paying for a substandard creature. Like, you're paying for a 3/3 and it costs you 7 mana and you got to draw 1 card. It's like, it's not really worth the value. So if you get this guy in your first pack, you build around the incubate deck. I don't know how well exactly the incubate deck is going to work in limited, but my personal feelings, I say it's not as good as the set probably wants it to be, because paying that extra mana is not always going to curve out really nicely, but there's a lot of support for it in a lot of colors, so you can always kind of cobble something together that works with them. Sometimes they're just added benefit, like the spell could be a removal for 3 that blows something up for 3, and then it's just also gives you an incubate 2 or something like that, and then that's fine. It's a well-costed card that gives you a bonus body after, and then that's not a bad thing. I'd put this at C+, because I'm trying to average all of the main costs you're gonna pay. Like, I don't think anybody's paying this for 7, maybe 10% of the time that's gonna happen. Paying it for 5, I'd say that's where 60% of the time you're gonna cast it. Paying it for 3 is okay if you know you're gonna curve into more incubate tokens, you want to have them on the board already. But the body that's left behind, a 1/2, is below rate for something you're paying 3 or 5 or 7 for. So he's probably going to die really quickly, either via fight spell, destroy, or like a shock or something. So I would normally rate this guy a B or B+, because incubate cost scaling is very strong, so you don't have to pay for him early. You can pay for him on turn 3 or turn 5 or turn 6 if you have some ramp. Being able to flip those other incubator tokens is like a free 2 mana that you would have spent on them anyway, so probably call him a B- if I was being honest, but he doesn't protect himself, he doesn't kill anything, and he makes slow bodies, so I'll keep him at C+. He's a little vulnerable, to say the least. Alright, so the first battle. Okay, so that one doesn't actually work the way it's supposed to. I'll just read it here and I'll find the backside for it. So, Invasion of Theros. If you pay 2 and a white, this battle enters the battlefield under an opponent. They are the opponent who protects it. You and others can attack it. When it's defeated, exile it, and then you can cast it, transform. Yes, god damn it, YouTube. I've only been here for 20 minutes. Stop playing videos. So what these battles are is like you're giving your opponent a thing. And they have to defend it. So if you swing at it with a 2/2, they can block for it, essentially. And your goal is to kill it. You want to do more than 4 damage to it. And you'll take little life counters down until it flips over. Generally, a lot of these are pretty good. The only downside is you have to have a good enough board presence to be able to swing into them and trigger them. So here's my dilemma with the battles and why I think March of the Machine is going to be a kind of slow format, or slower format, I should say, was. Because if you're both playing a battle or two in every deck, because the front side effect is pretty good, you're going to be diverting your attacks from killing your opponent to killing a battle. And if you have 3 creatures, maybe you swing 1 at the battle, 2 at them. They'd have to block the life or let the battle flip, or they double block and kill the thing killing the battle. So they take more damage, but they prevent you from getting a good battle. But a lot of times these battles on the... let me see if I can bring up a nicer picture of that. Oh, this is the better side. And can't see it, this one's so small. But, so when Invasion of Theros enters the battlefield, search your library for an aura, god, or demigod card. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. So, this is where this one I think already fails by default, because there are a couple demigod cards and god cards. There's a couple Theros gods and a couple demigod creatures. There's a good couple auras too, but this is a 3-mana tutor that may not have anything for you to tutor out on the front, which means it's dead for the first time you play it in most decks. And then flipping it is pretty strong. You get 4/4 Ifara, the Ever Sheltering God, legendary enchantment creature, and she has lifelink and indestructible as long as you control at least 3 other enchantments. Whenever another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So that's a good card. A lifelink indestructible 4/4 is pretty good. Enchantments. There are a couple enchantment creatures, but there's not that many. It's not Theros. So I don't think this is as good. Probably won't be able to turn her into a creature immediately. And then there's going to be, if you already have 3 enchantments out on the battlefield, it may be hard to have more enchantments in your library to play and get the draw card effect. But if you can flip her, then you can turn her into a god, like a creature, a 4/4 lifelink indestructible creature. It's very strong. But I don't think the front side's that good. There's not that many cards you get to actually ping it. And you're not going to play a lot of enchantments in a limited deck most of the time. 3 if you're in white or blue is not too bad. There's stuff like Pacifism is a card you're always going to play. And if you have a couple Pacifisms in your deck, then Invasion of Theros is not so bad, because you get to play it and you get a Pacifism in your hand. And then maybe you can flip it and play that aura right away to get some ability out of it. But it's like a build around in a limited set that is very, very mixed up. There's a lot of mechanics from a lot of different Magic sets here, so I don't think this is that good by on its own. Like on its own, it's not good at all. The front side does almost nothing in most cases. The backside is good, but you can't turn it on very easily in limited. So I'm gonna give this a D+. No, I'm gonna give it a D, because you have to be able to use both sides of it. Otherwise, it's like bad, hard to use cards. So, and let's put Bara down there with it. All right, the second battle. Invasion of Gobakan. Here, yeah, this one works correctly. When Invasion of Gobakan enters the battlefield, look at target opponent's hand. You may exile a non-land card from it. For as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may play it. A spell cast this way costs 2 more to cast. Okay, so this has been a card that's been on Elite Spellbinder and stuff before. It's a pretty good effect. It's great on curve. Since this is a little slower of a set, you might get away with this on turn 2 and not really be a big problem. And sometimes you can totally lock your opponent out of the game for a couple turns. Because let's say they play a land, they don't have a 1-drop, so they pass you. You play your land, they go back, they play their 2-drop, you play this as your 2-drop. They have to hold a blocker for it if they don't want you to flip it. And you can take, like, say, their 3 or their 4-drop card that's in their hand. Could be a removal, could be a creature, could be just a spell that draws them cards or something. And you see that the rest of their hand is full of lands or something. So you can really, like, push back their plan for several turns. So it's hit or miss. But the effect on the front side is not bad, and you can definitely pick just their best card. If it's a removal, you can make it cost 2 more, so maybe instead of a 3-mana destroy a creature spell, they have to go and pay 5 mana for it and just totally devote their turn to using that spell, which in Limited can put you behind quickly. On the flip side of the Battle of Gobakan, or Invasion of Gobakan, you got Light Shield Array. So, beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 counter on each creature that attacked this turn, and you can sacrifice this enchantment, Light Shield Array, to get creatures you control gain hexproof and indestructible on the end turn. And because there is a +1/+1 counter theme in this set, that backside is really good. I think it's very, very, very strong. There is conditions to it again, though. Because you have to have swung with those creatures. They have to have survived combat. And then they have to survive to your end step to get their counters. It doesn't put them on creatures that didn't attack. It's only for every creature that swung. So there's a little bit of a condition there, but it's a pretty good condition because you want to swing in Limited. A lot of times people, I think, play too reserved and they just hang back and hang back and hang back and the game ends. But Limited, for me, I find aggression wins the game. Always. Like, you play on curve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you probably just kill your opponent most times if you can play your curve out really well, and you've got a good balance of removal and combat tricks and creatures. The upside on this thing, being able to sacrifice it and get hexproof and indestructible, is fantastic if there's removal or a board wipe comes down that you don't expect. You don't have to pay anything, you just pop it right off the board, save your field. So if somebody plays that Elesh Norn against you and they try to board wipe with the second side of that, you can give all of your creatures indestructible, you can save them from the field getting blown up, and you can probably block really well. But that's not going to beat Elesh Norn. But it's a good card, I think. This one's not bad, and there's a decent number of places that you can be pretty happy to play this. Like, don't play this if your opponent's holding up one card, because it's almost guaranteed it's going to be a land. And they don't have to pay extra to play a land. Can't tax them on that with this card. But it's pretty good. It's more of a constructed card, I think, than a limited one, but it's still not bad. So let me just find the art for it here. That's not it. It was just way too small. Why are they so tiny? There it is. Invasion of Gobakan. I'd put this at a D+ because it's not winning you the game, but it's a card you want in this deck, and you definitely want to have it available to you when you're playing that deck. So I wouldn't pack one pick one this, but I do think it's valuable in the right deck. that's my thought on it. Alright, so first board wipe other than Elish Norn is Sunfall. It's a 5 mana board wipe, sorcery speed. Exile creatures, incubate X, where X is the number of creatures exiled this way. So wipe the board. Say there's 10 creatures, 5 on your opponent's side, 5 on your side. That means you get an incubator token that's 10/10. So you'll pay 2 to flip it into a 10/10. This is one of the better cards. But the downside to board wipes, especially in limited and when they're kind of expensive like this, is that you're playing them on the back foot. Because you don't wipe the board when you're winning. When you're like swinging in with 6 creatures and he's at 4 life or something. Sometimes you do. If you're crippling them basically, like you swung in with all your 2/2s and he blocks and kills a couple of them and you deal him 4 damage and then you board wipe and screw him over losing all his big creatures. But 5 mana is about the right value for this. It's not busted, but there is some utility, which I normally don't think a lot of limited board wipes give you some extra utility out of it. So this one I think is better than average. I will call it a B. Board wiping, and it's not a destroy board wipe either. So there's a lot of creatures that say when they die, this is exile. So they can't get it back, it's just gone. Which, partially why I put it in B. It's not a destroy board wipe, it's an exile board wipe. It'd be cool if it was an instant, but it'd be kind of busted, I think. Then it would be an A card for me. You get to swing, and you wait till your opponent swings, and then you whap, wipe the board, and they're like, oh, come on. Alright, next up is Dusk Legion Duelist. It's a 2 mana, 2/2 with Vigilance. Already, that's a C. 2 mana, 2/2 is C with an upside, so C+. So it's got an upside with Vigilance. Whenever one or more 1/1 counters are put on Dusk Legion Duelist, draw a card. This ability triggers once each turn. So this card plays fantastic with that Light Shield array. But it doesn't do anything on its own other than being a 2/2 with Vigilance for 2. Which, again, is a C+. Because 2/2 for 2 is a C. And this has a sometimes ability that will trigger. And will make it better, because getting a counter is something you're playing from another card, and it's just kind of a bonus. But getting a card off of that counter is a big bonus. So if you're in a counter deck, this goes to B or B+, because it's solid. But it's a rare too, so I think it's a little unlikely you're going to get it as often as you'd like. But at its baseline, enters the battlefield with no other cards, it's a C+. Here's the card I think is one of the worst ones in the set. So Convoke is a mechanic in this set again, which Convoke is. Say you have 3 white 1/1 creatures on the board, and you have Knight Errant of Eos on your hand or in your hand. You can tap each one of those creatures for 1 colorless mana or a colored mana of their color to pay for the Convoke spell. And that means you're tapping them down, you're removing the possibility of them being blockers or swinging, and then you get to cast this spell for that much cheaper. So Knight Errant of Eros is a 5 mana human knight with Convoke, and you get a 4/4 body out of it. Knight is a pretty relevant type in this set because there are a bunch of knights and a couple Knights Matters cards. There are a couple Convoke Matters cards. So if you're in that deck, you pick it, but I wouldn't pay 5 mana for a 4/4. Invoking 5 mana for a 4/4 is not bad sometimes, but that's only if you have creatures that are worth tapping down that you don't want to block with or swing with. And like I said, I think aggression usually wins a lot in these games. So playing on curve and attacking on curve every turn when you can will almost always beat your opponents if they're playing slow or playing too defensively or too cute with like, I'm waiting for a combo that wins me the game. It's like, yeah, I could just hit you with 2/2s for 5 turns and you're dead. So, but this, I'll evaluate this guy's effect. When Knight Errant of Eos enters the battlefield, you may look at the top 6 of your cards of your library and reveal up to 2 creature cards with mana value X or less from among them, where X is the number of creatures that convoked Knight Errant of Eos. Put the revealed cards in your hand, then shuffle. I think that sucks. What this card is supposed to be like is Coco, which I don't know if they have here, Collected Company. Here, let's look it up. There's the original one, which is a great card, because it lets you search your library for those cards, which is already great. Ranger Captain of Eos searches your library for that creature card. That's great. Knight Captain of Eos, he puts creatures on the battlefield already. Those cards are all fantastic cards. This card kind of sucks. Collected Company. The Collected Company is this card. Oh my god. Taking me to fucking Amazon. See the image, Google. That's just take me to Scryfall. There we go. Collected Company is a great card. Collected Company has a 4-mana green instant. Look at the top 6 cards of your libraries. Put up to 2 creature cards with converted mana cost 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in any order. This is 100 times better than Knight Errant of Eos. This is an instant. It's not a creature. It's not a convoke, so you're not really getting much of an advantage in the card type. But the fact that you can cast this on your opponent's turn, and it puts them on the battlefield for 1 less, and you're getting a guaranteed 3 mana out of each of them. To do that with Knight Errant of Eos, you need to convoke at least 3 creatures, which by turn 5 you may not have. It could be a 2 mana, a 3 mana, or a 4 mana. And that means you have no possibility of attack, you have no possibility of blocking, and then you get a 4/4 that you paid 2 for, which that cost paying is not bad, but you might not hit anything off the top of your library, and you're only getting 3 mana creatures. So if this is your 5-drop, I'd want a 6-drop or 2 3-drops on my next turn, which this can get you, but it also might not get you. And they don't go to the battlefield; they just go to your hand. This is one of my least favorite cards in the set. I feel like it's a whiff on every level. I don't think there's enough early generators for convoke creatures, like say Skrull's Hive in the last set. It's a 2-mana white rare that puts a 1/1 toxic mite out every turn. They can't block, but if your opponent's got 2/2s, you're not swinging at them anyways, so you just let them sit there. I tapped 3 of those for this, but there's not that many cards like that in this set, so I don't think this works as good. And I don't think, unless you're in the Knight deck or the Convoke deck, maybe he goes in, but I don't think you're picking this first, or you shouldn't. I don't like this guy. I'm going to call him a D+. He's not at rate for his value. He doesn't have an upside, so he doesn't get to be a C+. He doesn't even get to be a C. And I don't think his effect is very good, because if you play him raw, if they blow up all your creatures, he's a negative for you. But you probably need a blocker or a body if they blow up all your creatures. And he doesn't do anything for you, though. It's less good. If this said to the battlefield, and it just said anything, 2 mana, 3 mana for that, and Convoke was just on the card and it didn't matter about it, this card would have been A+ great. Because it would have just been, this is a card you can get out for cheaper than its cost and get some other bodies out on the battlefield too. This is not a very good card at all. Right. Guardian of Girapur. 3 mana, 3/3, Flying Angel. It's a creature. It's from the Revolt place, which I'm forgetting the name of. Ixalan is the pirate and dinosaur place. I can't remember what play that is. Damn it. Aether Revolt was the good set. Illy Rise from there. Damn it. Gonna bug me. Aether Revolt playing. Kaladesh, there we go. Very good sets. With lots of cards that have held their value for a long time. 3/3 for 3. It's already a C. It's got flying, which I consider a very good bonus. So I would put that at a B- for 3/3 for 3 with flying. But then it's also got its upside here. So, Guardian of the Gearper enters the battlefield, exile up to one other target creature or artifact you control, return that to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next instant. What this card is cheaper Restoration Angel, which you can see right here. Resto Angel is a very good card. A flash 3/4 flyer that flickers another creature when it enters the battlefield is very strong. You can use it to save a creature you're devoted to blocking, remove it from combat, have it come back out of the battlefield under your control at the end of the turn, and it survives combat. Probably blanks the attack of that thing as long as it didn't have trample. And you've got a 3/4 flyer that he didn't expect you to have, and you can swing right back over the top. Losing flash makes this not good. Like, I would put Resto Angel at like a B+, A- area. This one I'd put at a B. Solid B. Not having flash for being 1 mana cheaper and losing a toughness is a large drop. A very large drop. But this is still really solid. Like, it's better than a C, it's better than a C+. Like, the times you get to use this sometimes, like, there's going to be a lot of good use cases where they enchant your creature or curse it or put an artifact on it that stops it from being usable. Can't attack with it, can't swing with it, can't use its abilities, or it becomes a 0/2 with no abilities. This can save it from those. This can turn a creature you've already swung back into a regular straight up position, able to block creature, and you can re-trigger your ETBs on it. You can flicker artifacts if they've got counters on them and you want to remove them or set them back to their default one. Like, there's a lot of good uses for this card, so I think it earns its B very solidly. Right, here's one of the other new mechanics, the first one. It's on Boonbringer Valkyrie. Creature Angel, 5 mana, 4/4. Flying, first strike, lifelink, Angel Warrior, which is... That's a Bane Strike, or Bane Slayer Angel. Like, a little bit less power, but the backup is a very good ability. And this is one of the great limited ones, I think. Like, backup... There's a backup deck for sure, but I don't think the backup deck is where you want to play it. I think the backup cards are just good on their own. What backup is, when you cast Boonbringer Valkyrie, enters the battlefield, you get to put another 1/1 counter on a target creature. So it could be Boonbringer Valkyrie if you have no other targets. Could be another 1-drop creature you played 4 or 5 turns ago. If that is another creature, it gains the abilities that this card has. So, say you play your 1/1, turn 1, 4 turns go by. Your 1/1 probably isn't able to swing. They've got 2/2s or 3/3s that block it, and it's just sitting there waiting to jump like, whoop, goes a piece of ice. But if you put this 1/1 counter on a different creature than Boonbringer Valkyrie, that creature gets its +1/+1 counter, so it's now 2/2, and then it also gets flying, first strike, and lifelink for the turn, which is a great combat trick. It's just a icing on the cake for this guy. And like 5 mana, for a 4/4 flyer is not at cost, but it's still very good because the evasion is very strong, so that would be a C+. 5 mana for a 4/4 flying and first strike is very, very good. First strike is a very strong ability, and a lot of flyers don't have the toughness to survive 4 mana first strike. Adding lifelink on that is, again, just super icing. Like, this was B+ card for me. Like, I would rate it a B+ for 5 mana 4/4 with those abilities. The backup is just so useful on this card. Like, you play aggressive, you play your curve out. By the time you get to play this, that card wins you a game or gets you very close to winning the game. Moonbringer Valkyrie, B+. Right. Heliod, the Radiant Dawn, the Phyrexian god we get out of this set. So if you know Heliod from the other Thero sets, he's kind of a dick. He's the white god, so he's supposed to be like Zeus. And you get that kind of impact from his cards here. But he's a douchebag. Elspeth came back from the dead to kill him once, but he came back. Alright, so Heliod the Radiant Dawn. 2, white, 4/4. Already pretty good. When Heliod the Radiant Dawn enters the battlefield, return target enchantment card that isn't a god from your graveyard to your hand. He's one of the other enchantment creatures that can help trigger Ifara. But you can't get back Ifara, and you can't get back the battle, because when Ifara leaves the battlefield, she exists as the front side card. That's how these modal two-faced cards work. Like, if Heliod goes to the graveyard, it's not Heliod the Warped Eclipse that goes to the graveyard, it's Heliod the Radiant Dawn that is in your graveyard. Because this is not a card, this is just the other side of this card. So you get back an enchantment, which is semi-rare in limited. So that might not trigger all the time, but a 4/4 for 4 is rate, so it's a C. But Heliod's special ability is when he flips. So this is one of the other mechanics in the set is Phyrexian mana. So you can pay this mana with blue, which is the water symbol, or you can pay it with 2 life. And this is why I didn't put this in the multicolored one, because you could just pay this with 3 and 2 life and flip him to the Heliod Warped Eclipse side. So you don't need blue to do it, which is really nice for fixing, for playing a multicolored deck where you might not get that splash color. But Heliod, the Radiant Dawn, is 4/4 for 4. Heliod, the Radiant Dawn, is like a C, sometimes a C+ if he gets his frontside ability off. But if you can flip him, you may cast spells as though they had flash. That's fucking great. Means you can cast creatures on your opponent's turn. You can cast sorceries on your opponent's turn. Like Sunfall, you can board wipe your opponent on their turn. And spells you cast cost 1 last for each card your opponents have drawn this turn. Whoa, that's really good. And he's a 4/6 on the backside too, so he's a little stronger. He's not indestructible on the backside the way Ifara and the other gods can be, but his backside is dope. So if you can get the front side and you can get him to stick for a little bit, unfortunately you can't use the transform of a lot of these cards to save them. Say if somebody targets it with destroy target creature, you can't pay their flip cost and flip them because it's only activated as a sorcery. Cards, I'm pretty sure. I think there are a couple cards that say transform target card and you flip it automatically, but nothing on the card allows you to play at instant speed. So he's a little bit dangerous in that you could get 2 popped. Like, you play him on your turn 4, and then you go to your turn 5, you pay 3 mana, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna flip him, and then I'm gonna cast the card on my opponent's turn and blow up their creature or throw another blocker in their way. And you pay this mana to activate the ability, and before that ability resolves, they destroy it. And then you get 2 for 1, and you lost 3 or 4 mana and 2 life. So I'd call Heliod the Radiant Dawn a C. I'd call Heliod the Warped Eclipse a B. So I'm gonna put him in a B C plus because the front side is still solid. I was very happy to play him, and sometimes you get to get a really good card on the other side that can totally warp the game. Let me find my Heliod. There he is. C plus. Oh, you know what I could do? I could rate the front and the back sides differently because they have front and back sides. I'm gonna do that. Heliod the warp thing is C. That tutor from before is a D, but Ifara is D plus. This light side thing, the front side is a D plus, but the back side is a B. Yeah. Backside of Legendary is an S, because that's a game-winning set of freaking stuff. Okay, and the backside, Heliod the Warped Eclipse, is a B. Not backbreaking, but if you set yourself up right, that could be very backbreaking. Phyrexian Censor. It's a Phyrexian wizard from Strixhaven. One of the poor teachers got turned into some body horror monster. For 2 mana, a white, 3/3. Already perfect rate. So, this is one of the other archetypes that you might want to build, which is the Phyrexian deck. There are a certain number of cards that care about Phyrexian creature types. There are a lot of Phyrexian cards. I'd probably say a little more than half are Phyrexian cards. Sometimes not on the front, sometimes only on the backside, but there's a lot of them. So each player can't cast more than one non-Phyrexian spell each turn, and non-Phyrexian creatures enter the battlefield tapped. So if you play this card, all your cards should be Phyrexian. This card is already rate for a C, but playing this really slows the game down for the opponent that may not have that set up. There's a lot of other cards that do very similar effects here. They're always fun if you build around them, and it's rare that white gets to be that you don't get to do the fun thing color as much anymore. But I really like this card. It's definitely I would call this a B as well, like a B minus. 3 for 3 is great, but slowing your opponent down and probably allowing you to play at a normal or faster rate because you know your cards are not coming in tapped is very good. It's uncommon too, so it's a build around. You get this, and you might want to build a Phyrexian deck. Alright, here's one of the Incubate and Phyrexian support cards. I don't like these ones that are like an enchantment that does something and incubates. There's a blue one, there's a white one. This one's better, even though the blue one says draw a card on it. So this one, you pay 3, this enchantment is the battlefield, and you incubate 4, which means you get your 0/0 token and 4 1/1 counters on it. You pay 2, make it a 4/4. Phyrexians you control have vigilance, which means you could have a 4/4 vigilance for paying 5, which is about the correct rate. So you don't play this card on its own unless you're really forced to, or you're digging for enchantments for Ifara or Heliod if you really need to. But if you're in the Phyrexian deck or the Incubate deck and you want to load up on Incubate tokens incidentally, not bad. I'd still call this a C because you don't get a creature for 3 mana, and you still have to pay 2 more to get the creature, but a 4/4 for vigilance that's kind of split up into 2 payments is not bad, really. It's pretty good, but I don't like how slow it makes you want to play, because there's going to be a lot of times where people come in and they play a card and they just don't do anything for 2 turns. Like they play this, and then they play another thing, and then they just sit there and they don't have enough mana to flip them or something. So another invasion battle card, or siege card, I don't know how you want to call these. They all say battle siege on them. Alright, so Invasion of Belanon. 3 mana uncommon with 5 life or whatever. I don't know what to call that. When Invasion of Belanon enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 white and blue knight creature token with vigilance. Paying 3 for a 2/2 vigilance knight with, again, knights matter a little bit. It's not bad, it's not great, it's just fine. The backside is a anthem effect, which is usually pretty good, and in your knight effects, you really want that kind of effect to stack up over time. So you get to make your knight, and sometimes you get to swing into this 2 or 3 turns, or even that turn if you already have bodies on the board, and then you get to have a lord effect for your knight that stayed back. Combined, I'd probably give this a C. Like, these are about the level that I like playing, because a lot of the rares are niche, I'd say at best. The mythics are backbreaking sometimes. The commons kind of suck, but the uncommon ones are pretty good. And they're not too spicy, but they're kind of reliable, and that's kind of where you'd want them to be at. So if you needed some extra cards, I'd treat this as a 2/2 knight with vigilance, and that you sometimes eventually get a lord effect out of. But your opponent can stop you from that if they have walls or removal or just good blockers. They can stop you from getting your lord effect. But these can be targeted with direct damage, like a lightning. Pop this, or certain cards say destroy your battle and flip it. So Battle of Belanon. Battle of Belanon, I'm going to call it a C. Not specifically at rate, it's a C- if I'm just considering it a 2/2 vigilance for 3, but not bad. Backside, I forgot what it looks like already. Oh yeah, that lord guy. There we go. Lord effects, or sorry, anthem effects. Anthems are better than lords because enchantments are harder to blow up, and sometimes your enchantments matter a little bit. But I'd put it at a C because it doesn't do anything on its own. If you don't have creatures, it's not saving your life. But if you have creatures, it's happy. So those are both a C. All right. Invasion of Dominaria. 3 mana, uncommon, 5. When Dominaria enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life and draw a card. That's okay for 3. Drawing the card for 3 is a little bit overpriced, but blue should do it for cheaper. White does it a little bit more expensive and sometimes gains life. That's kind of white's color pie for that stuff. But on the backside, you get a 4/4 flying Vigilance Angel. That's fucking great. And that's the classic Sarah's Angel, 5 mana, 4/4 flying Vigilance. So 3 mana, sometimes getting a 4/4 flying Vigilance is peak stuff. What the fuck, YouTube? I was asked me to keep playing the music like 2 or 3 times now. I don't like what you cheeky fucking YouTube. But yeah, 3 mana, draw a card, game 4 life. That's okay. It's not bad. It's not an unwanted ability. It's not great. You're not happy to pay 3 mana to draw a card, but not bad. So I'd call that like a C-. The backside, the Seraph Faithkeeper, that is a solid C+, because it's kind of free if you can pop this side quick enough. 4/4 flying vigilance. To be honest, it's like hovering between a B- and a C+. 4/4 flying vigilance for 5 is usually that rate, and they're always fine, but they're strong too. They're not weak at all. I don't like incubate. So Tiller of Flesh, it's gross muscle bone man for 3 and a white. Uncommon Phyrexian Knight, other Knights Matter cards. A 2/4. Yeah, for 4, that's not great. He doesn't have any other bonus keyword abilities, but whenever you cast a spell, it targets one or more permanents. Incubate 2. So ideally, what's going to happen is you're going to play this guy, and you're going to swing with him, and you're going to cast a combat trick because 2/4s suck, and they might not die, but they might not survive, and they might not kill whatever they're going into. So you pump it, and you kill something, or you cast a spell to protect something, or you cast a spell to target an opponent's creature and destroy it, or pop their enchantment or whatever. So sometimes this guy's going to make you a token with 2 counters on it. You have to pay 2 more to turn into a 2/2. So it's really splitting up where you can get those 2/2s at. I don't like the rate on this guy, and the effect I think is pretty slow. But if you get it in the Incubate Matters deck, it's probably okay. This is going to be a C- for me. If it had Vigilance or something, it'd be C. That's a little overcosted, but I understand why they did it, because this effect, if it was on a common card or cheaper, would start to run over the game pretty quickly. And you get that when you look at Venerated Rot Priest in Standard and in Limited. When that card hits the field, they go pump, pump, fight, pump, fight, and oh shit, you've suddenly got 6 poison counters and you're almost dead. And then you cast a spell on their creature and they give you another poison counter. Proliferate, injure. Okay. So, Surge of Salvation is White's Veil of Summer. It's not even close to as good as Veil of Summer, but it's not bad. It doesn't target, so it doesn't even trigger that last night guy, but it's still really good, and you might want to keep one in your deck, or at least in the sideboard, because the second part is the part that matters on it. So 1 mana, instant, white spell. You have permanents you control gain hexproof till end of turn. Prevent all damage that black or red sources would deal to creatures you control this turn. So if your opponent's got a big pumped up board, black and red creatures, and they're going to go for a winning kill, they swing all in, you throw your blockers into the best spots, and he goes to removal or lightning bolt you or something. You cast this, protect yourself, protect your creatures. They can't be targeted. You can't be targeted by the spells they cast. Effects still get around that, but also you're going to keep your creatures alive, and it doesn't protect you from those creatures, so it's not a fog. You can't just blank them and not block anything, but your creatures will survive the combat, so you can throw them under the bus really hard with this, but only against black or red. So it's narrow, but it's not a bad card. Like, if you need a combat thing or a fog, it's not bad. But the other side of this coin when you're playing cards like this is you shouldn't want to play these cards, because this means you're getting your ass kicked or you're going to lose. This is a sideboard card for me, or at the very least the last card I put in my deck as like a 41, because it's like, I might just need this because it happens. But because it's kind of narrow, I will call it a C. Let me find it here. It's got pretty good art though. It's a C. Because you shouldn't play it in your main deck, probably. The hexproof is kind of relevant, but do you have a big enough board? Is your opponent targeting you directly for a lot of things? Maybe, but that's game 2. Do it for game 2. Alright. Seraph and Capenna. This is the first one of the like standard creatures, other than the god in the battle, that flip into a Phyrexian on the back. So Seraph and Capenna, 2 and a white for a 2/2 flying angel soldier, which is vanilla. 2/2 for 3 is like a C-. 2/2 for 3 with flying is like a C to C+. The flip side, which you're not going to see that often, but it's there. Serapha Nuphyrexia is a flying Phyrexian angel, 3/3. Whenever Serapha Nuphyrexia attacks, you may sacrifice another creature or artifact, and if you do, Serapha Nuphyrexia gets +2/+1 until end of turn. So it swings as a 5/4 flyer, which is really good. That's 4 swings to end the game, basically. But it costs you 8 mana or 7 mana and 2 life to get there. I really want to evaluate these front cards as that's the card. Like 3 mana 2/2 flyer for 3. This is pretty okay. Like you're not unhappy playing that. Like I'd rather a 3/2 or 2/3 for 3, or with vigilance or something, but it's not bad. You're gonna be happy to play it a lot of the time, and you're not gonna be like upset when it blows up because you didn't have 5 extra mana to cast for the backside. For the life of me, there you go, can't find it. So that's a C. The front side is a C. The back side is very strong. If you're in the black-white deck that has a little bit of sacrifice themes in it, or at least you have black cards that have some of the sacrifice matters things in it, that's a very good card on the back. Not busted, but it's at least as good as the Sarah Warrior, the 4/4 flying vigilance, because this is a 5/4 flying without vigilance that sometimes triggers your other card's effects. So backside's a C+. I don't like paying 8 mana for that, but I'll pay 4 mana and 2 life for that sometimes. I'd rather just pay 5, but it's like a worse Sarah Angel, but just a little bit. I'm losing the vigilance, so this one hovers at the bottom of C to C+. This one hovers at the top of C+ to B-. If I could put these on a scale, that's where I put it. So Sunblessed Guardian, 2/2 for 2. It's a C. There's no other abilities on the front side. And then you pay 6 mana or 5 mana and 2 life to get to Furnace Blessed Conqueror. Furnace Blessed Conqueror is a 3/3 Phyrexian Cleric, which is weird. But whenever Furnace Blessed Conqueror attacks, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of it. Put a 1/1 counter on that token for each 1/1 counter on Furnace Blessed Conqueror. Sacrifice that token at the beginning of the next end step. So this is a weird one to me because the front side doesn't make tokens. The back side doesn't make tokens for himself. So on its own, this is a 2/2 and a 3/3 that sometimes makes a copy of itself when this attacks. So this swings by default like a 6/6, which is pretty okay. 6/6 split into 2 bodies. But if you're in the counters matter deck and you can pop a couple counters on this guy, then it's closer to double strike because you're getting a second body with the same amount of power on it. This side is pretty good. This side is regular standard dog water. It's like a C. But when 2/2 for 2 is a C, power creep is a thing. Almost every single 2/2 in all of Magic now is 2/2 with a bonus, like 2/2 vigilance, 2/2 lifelink, 2 something. So this is not as good as it could be. Yeah, but maybe you have some things that matter about Phyrexians, some things have matters for transforms, some things that have matters for +1/+1 counters. That backside could be a C+. There's going to be a lot of them in there and a lot of the front sides in here. I don't particularly like these front sides on their own because they're often just weak and they could get blown up really easily, like by this, and that's why this is a good card and these cards are average. So Elspeth Smite is 1 mana, white, instant spell. Elspeth Smite deals 3 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. Exile is narrowly, it matters a little bit, but weirdly, there are a lot of cards that steal your opponent's cards or bring back your own cards in this set because Angels, because Phyrexians, because, yeah. 3 damage is that kind of sweet spot, I think, in this set too, where most of the creatures are going to die to that by default unless they have counter or special abilities or something. But it quickly gets outclassed by an uncommon or a 4-drop or things with an enchantment or an aura or something like that on it. They're just not going to care about the 3 damage. But usually you trade this in with your 2/2 going up against their 5/5. You chump their 5/5, deal it 3 damage, your 2/2 kills it. This gives it exile as well. So this card's been in effect before, but it's usually 2 damage, and it's usually something like this creature is dealing to tapped creature or something like that. So this is like a strict upgrade or all the other similar effects. It's a little better, but it's also an uncommon, so you're not going to get it as often as you'd like in white. But it's a C+. It's removal. It's pretty good. This is much better removal. Usually there's an effect called Oblivion Ring or something like that, and there's a few of them that when you play this card, you take an opponent's card, non permanent usually, sometimes a creature, sometimes specific things like artifacts or planeswalker, and you stick it under this and it's exiled until this leaves the battlefield. So if they don't have enchantment removal, they can't get it back. But this one, they were a little cheeky with it. It's got ward 3, so if they cast a spell that says destroy target enchantment for 3, they have to pay 6 to blow this up. They have to pay an additional tax on top of the cost of their card. But if you're a prick, or you're being a rules lawyer or a jerk to somebody, you can say, hey, you cast that card and you targeted this, it has ward 3. Your card that you cast, if you cannot pay that 3, is countered. That's how these work. It's not, they can't cast the card. They can cast it and it will just explode if they want to. I don't know why they would, but at a pre-release or a draft, if you remind your opponent of that, that's a good thing. But this is great. It's non-conditional exile removal, and it's actually pretty hard to get rid of, so I'm going to call that a B. It's up there. Norn's Inquisitor. I like this art. It's so good. As far as the card goes, it's fine. It's kind of the linchpin for the Phyrexian Transform deck and the Incubate deck. So it's a 2/2, a 1/1 for 2, 1 mana and a white. It's Phyrexian Knight, which also matters. It's a good place. There's a lot of decks that like this guy. When Norn's Inquisitor enters the battlefield, Incubate 2. So you get your counter, 2/2 counters. Whenever a permanent you control transforms into a Phyrexian, which includes the Incubate tokens, and includes those kind of substandard 2/2s that I picked up before, put a 1/1 counter on it. This card is the one that this one needs. So if you have this card and not this card is not as good. But if you have this card, that card becomes really good. Then you're swinging with 8/8. Okay, that's good. This card is like a linchpin. It's not a great card on its own, because you're splitting up the power that it would have. You're paying 2 mana for 3 power. 4 mana for 2 power. If this survives, it becomes 4 power, which is better. But this card on its own would be like a D+. But with the the Incubate guy and the ability to flip it, it's better. Well, you can even see me to say cool, but but I love the art, and it's probably an essential card for those decks. It goes to C+. Just evaluating it on its own effects, it does a lot of stuff. The 1/1 that comes in makes a 2/2, and if you can flip it, becomes a 3/3, which is pretty good. It's like, I don't know if they have it here. They do not. Say the artifact golem creature that makes a 3/3 golem and he's a 1/1 human or whatever. It's basically the same thing, but split up into a lot of other effects here. That guy normally costs 4. So this guy is payment plan version of that one. At Zalfren Lancers, the city in a bottle has come back into takeover Phyrexia. 3 mana, 3/3, already a C. Whenever another knight enters the battlefield under your control, Zalfren Lancer gets +1 and +1 and vigilance. Plus. Good. A lot of other knights in this set, so it's easy to trigger it, and it matters to the knight's deck. 3/3 for... Yeah, you know what? Sorry. Shouldn't be evaluated on the other cards. This is a C, but it is a card that slides up into C+ if you're in the knight's deck. A 3/3 for 3 is great. That's... If you play that on curve, you're going to be happy. Aerial Boost is Evoke spell. That makes these combat tricks a little bit better, and also personally I think a little bit worse, but I'll explain why in a second. So Aerial Burst is 2 mana instant with Convoke. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 and flying until end of turn. There's a whole bunch of white cards that have this effect. Mighty Leap, Desperate Lunge, Aerial Maneuver, they're all very similar. +2/+2 and flying, +2/+2 and flying, gain life, gets first strike, whatever. Just variants of this. Having this be Convoke means you could go into combat with no mana and trick the guy. Or you could go into combat with Vigilance creatures and tap them, pump something to get it above and deal lethal. Problem is Convoking. When you're swinging in like that and you don't have the mana up, you get to trick the opponent. But if I go and I swing with 3 creatures, and I hold back 2 creatures to cast this Convoke spell to get one of my creatures above, if it doesn't kill them, I'm leaving myself very open to get that attack through. Sometimes you're gonna have like a 5/5 and 2 or 3 1/1s or 2 2s left over that can't swing in effectively. So you swing in with the 5/5, you tap 2 of these guys down, keep 1 chump blocker back, get your 5/5 up for 7 damage, you're gonna be totally happy about it. You get 2 for 1. You can get like 6 for 1 because you convoked some creatures and bluffed a bunch of creatures on attack to get that through, and then they just kill it. So yeah, I'm not sure where to put this one. I would say C- personally. I'm gonna put it in D+ because it's interesting and there's definitely going to be some good places for it, and it's common, so you're going to see it a fair amount. But it's just not... I don't like Convoke on cheap spells. I like it on big spells, which is debatably worse because you lose a lot more value when they stop it or destroy it. But sorry, my nose is a little runny today. Alabaster Host Intercessor. 6 mana, Jesus Christ. Phyrexian Samurai, so he's a Phyrexian. Samurai doesn't really matter. 3/4, bad stat line for 6. When Alabaster Host Intercessor, it's an annoying one to say. I would just say Alabaster Host. It's fine. There's a battlefield. Exile target creature an opponent controls till Alabaster Host Intercessor leaves the battlefield. This guy's another O-ring effect, which is pretty good and okay for 6. You're getting a good body out of it. But downside being it's a creature, so when they kill it, they get the thing back, and you've gotten nothing great out of it. Plane Cycling does give this guy more versatility. I'm going to give it a C+ right now because I love cycling abilities on cards. Like, oh, it's a 6 mana 4/4 trample. It's not great, but it's got cycling, so you could draw a card or filter your deck like this one can. So cycling and plain cycling. Pay 2. They can't react to it because you're not casting it. You're channeling an ability on a card to get an effect that doesn't use the stack.
What are you doing, Cleo? What are you doing, graphic?
Right at me, not coming over. Okay. Cycling, you draw a card. Plain cycling, you discard this card, search the library for a plains card, and put it in your hand, and then you shuffle the deck. Yeah, use a C+. Sometimes you get this. Oh, there you are, Cleo. Hello. Good girl. Good girl. Sometimes you get 2 mana. This guy in your opening hand. You're off white. You got 2 other white creatures at 3 or 4. You cycle this guy. You get a plains. Play your thing. Sometimes you draw him on turn 5, 6, or 7, and you remove a blocker and you swing for the win. Like, that's not bad with this. So, as a common, this guy's actually really good. Angelic Intervention. 2 mana instant with a cool Elspeth art. Target creature or planeswalker you control gains protection from colorless or from the color of your choice until the end of your turn. If it's a creature, put a 1/1 counter on it. So there's a couple other cards that give you similar effects, which they have none of these. Not as good as Apostle's Blessing like this guy's talking about. But because Apostle's Blessing, you could pay Phyrexian Life for it instead of the mana, which meant it was a lot more versatile because you could do it on an open, semi-open board or closed board. But 2 mana protection is pretty good. If you have 5/5 and they're a mono black deck and they've got all black blockers, you can make your 5/5 6/6 and then just punch them because they can't be blocked, targeted, dealt damage, enchanted, or equipped by anything with that quality. But beware, if you're playing a 2-color deck, like say white and red, and you enchant or you give your creature protection from red, and he has a red artifact equipped to him, it will be unequipped because protection knocks it off. It cannot be enchanted or equipped by those things. You can unequip yourself sometimes, so beware a little bit. But this will sneak through some games. It's a C+ for me. And sometimes you'll save creatures. Yeah, trade up on stuff. So, oh, also, yeah. The damage part of that means if you have a 4/4, they have a 4/4, but you want to keep yours alive, you give it, let's say 3/3. You block their 4/4, you give your 3/3 a counter and protection from that color. Yours will take no damage from theirs, and you will deal full damage to them. So you will just straight up win that fight unless they play other stuff. But cost 2 mana, so yeah, but it's a good one of those. This can win you games, can save you. It's good. Bola Slinger. 4 mana, 2/2. Not great. Cat Soldier, doesn't matter. Backup 1. Okay, that's good. Whenever this creature attacks, tap target artifact or creature an opponent controls. There's been a couple of cards with this effect. They're normally like a 3 mana or 4 mana. Oh, this source doesn't have anything in it, but there's like a dinosaur from Ixalan that was fucking fantastic for this. Like 2 or 3 of those, I think bellowing something. Pop on the field, swing, tap down your opponent's blockers, hit for 4, they get back up. Oh, they don't have enough life to swing at you back, so you swing again, tap down their stuff, pop, pop, pop. It's a good effect. And giving that effect to something you already have, plus a +1 counter, is pretty good. Turns your 2/2 into a 3/3 that taps your opponent's 5/5 down, so they can only block it with a 2/2 or a 1/1 or something like that. There's lots of good ways to use this. 4 mana is a little expensive, but I really like that effect. Not being a 2/3 or something kind of sucks because he's in that squishy basic range again. But the backup ability is pretty strong on its own. You could make himself a 3/3 if you don't have a creature, but you obviously don't get the extra effect of getting a copy of that effect. So this guy's a C+. He's at best a 4 mana 3/3 that has a cool ability that's very valid in limited. Sometimes you're splitting that ability into 2 creatures and putting a counter on things, so it's not bad. A little better than average. Cut short. 3 mana, instant convoke. Destroy target planeswalker that was activated this turn or tapped creature. Okay, so this one's a little better than the other stuff. Like I was saying, where I don't like the instant spells that pop tapped creature because you have to wait till they attack. But this one having convoke is decent because you can declare your blockers, then convoke your spells, pop the thing you didn't block, get good value out of it. I heard somebody knock on my door. Else closing the door. But destroy target planeswalker is interesting. So if they put a planeswalker out and they did their +1 or their -1, you could kill it before. No, their ability would still resolve. They would just have a dead planeswalker. But that's rarer. There's not that many at like uncommon or rare that you're gonna see. There's 1 or 2, but they're mostly 6. So not as valid, but the convoke is interesting. Like I said, you block 3 out of the 4 creatures, you jump in 2, tap them all down, pop the 4th creature. Not a bad way to have that. And 3 mana is not too expensive to just blow up a tapped creature in instance. Yeah, let's see. A little expensive. I'm not really sold on convoke yet, but this one is smarter than the regular tapped removal. Tapped removal and convoke is good for defense plays. Old scale aeronaut. It's like a Theros dude flying a Leonardo da Vinci bike. 5 mana, 2/3, backup 1, flying. Not great, but guy's a C-, really, but I'm gonna put him in the D+ range. You're not happy to pay 5 mana for a 2/3 flyer, but get 5 mana for a 3/4 flyer. It's still not that good. Like, these are just better, and you kind of paid about the same for those. Sometimes this is gonna win you a game too, though. They don't have a flyer. You got a 6/6. They got to feel the blockers. You make that 6/6 a 7/7 and flying, and you pop them in the head, and you're good. So not too bad because of the rate. It's just an expensive 4 flyer that sometimes is going to throw a creature over their board, and that's okay. Yep. Infected Defector. Cool art for this one, but see with the card. 5 mana, 4 and a white for a 4/3 Phyrexian Knight. There's a Phyrexian Knight that matters again. When Infected Defector dies, incubate 3. That kind of sucks. It's a little below rate for 5 mana for a 4/3, and you have to wait for it to die to get the effect of paying another 2 to get a 3/3. So you're paying 7 mana for a 4/3 that died and a 3/3. Hey, but they're not at the same time, and it's a little conditional. There are exile effects in the set. There's this one right here. That will just eat this up, and you'll lose a lot of mana for it. So I don't like playing 5 mana for a 4/3 that doesn't work. This is the plus. Height can matter, Phyrexian can matter, Incubate can matter. So it's in that spot where like stuff might want to be played, and you might want to use this in a deck that has the things that it cares about, but it's not that great. Fiddler. Inspire Charge has been around for before. 4 mana, instant. Creatures you control get +2/+1. There are better versions of the effect. There are better versions of that effect in this set, but it's fine. This is a totally standard card that gets put into sets. I'm going to call it a D because you don't want ever more than like 1, maybe 2 of these. But So you might want one, at least in a deck if you're in a white deck or a green deck or a white-red deck or a white-green deck that has a couple bodies out and you want to pump them all for a lethal push. And by leaving 4 mana open when you swing with your field, they're going to know something's up for sure. So maybe if you're protected, it's okay. Maybe get a good swing in on it. That's all right. Yeah, it's a D. You don't want like 4 of them. You're not going to play more than 1 or 2 tops. So, okay. So here's a white artifact. Or Halberd. 1 mana, equip 1. Gets +1/+1 in vigilance. Normally, I'd say there isn't really like a big equipment theme or artifact theme in this set, but there's a couple cards that have prowess. +1/+1 in vigilance for 1 and 1 is not bad. Like, there's enough counters going around in this set that +1/+1 and vigilance is going to be pretty decent, even if you're throwing it on a 2, like a 2/2, and bringing in for 3 and trading, and then equipping it to another 2/2. You're going to be pretty okay with that. The equip cost is like low enough, and the cost of this is low enough. You're going to be pretty happy to shuffle it around a little bit. Like, I'm going to put this at a C, because it's better than you'd expect for cheap equipment. Like, not amazing on an Embercleave, but it's okay. I feel like this is the kind of... I'm glad they haven't had any Fs yet, but that's really close to an F. It's just because auras, there's a pacifism in this set, like a really good pacifism, so there's some use, but it's not great. Right, Realm Breaker's Grasp, 2 mana enchantment aura, enchant artifact or creature, enchanted permanent cannot attack or block, and its activated abilities cannot be activated unless they're mana abilities. This is better pacifism. It doesn't target just creatures, it also stops their abilities. They can still use mana abilities, which is like tap this creature, add +1 mana into your pool. Lock out artifacts, which is relevant. So if you locked your opponent's equipment down, because it's a handy example, they would not be able to equip it to anything. This is just strictly better pacifism. It's a power creep ahoy. That means that's, you can call it a B. It's like it's just removal, basically. Roll shift. 2 and a white. Instant exile up to 1 target artifact, creature, or enchantment you control, and return it to the battlefield under its owner's control and draw a card. 2 good ways to use this. Defensively and offensive trick. So, say you swing, they don't block it, or you survive combat. You got a 3/3 and it's tapped. They swing in with their 2/2. You flicker it. It comes back. Available to block. You block the 2/2. They lose their 2/2. You killed the thing. You'd also draw a card. Flicker back's pretty good. If you have 2 or 3 of these, you're going to be happy to play them, especially if you play into them properly. Drawing a card is bonus. 3 mana for a flicker is pretty okay. Normally, some of the really good ones, I don't know if they're going to show it in the thesaurus here, they do not. It would be stuff like there's like a, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a 1 mana white one, there's a 2 mana blue one, there's a 2 mana white one, there's a couple other effects. They don't draw you a card though, so this does, which means you get another ETB effect if your creature says something like, when this creature enters the battlefield, +1 something else. You're like, okay, good enough for that. Or draw another card, or blah blah blah. So, pretty sure the way a lot of these transform cards work is FC Wild. Which side? Put on the battlefield, return as its front face without you getting a choice. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So if you exile one of their good cards, like these flippy things, you could flip it back to the bad side for them, which is more utility.
Meow, what you want? What you want? You got fed. You got fed. Meow. You just wanted a pet? Is that what it is? You ran away? Hey. Garbage can. Scroll shift is a C for me. Not bad enough to go to D plus because there's a lot of versatility for it in this set, I think, and you could be really ingenuitive the way it works. Also, if you exile a token, it just goes away. So you could exile incubate token, it's just gone. So great. What you doing? Your feet, Cleo? Get some of that fresh ice in here. Alright, Sigiled Sentinel. 3 mana human knight with a backup 1, vigilance 2/2. So already this is better than the one over here. Invasion of Belenon or whatever it was. Because I put a 3/3 2/2 vigilance knight, which is what that gives you, as a C. This gives you the backup, which gives something else vigilance and a +1/+1 counter. So this is a C plus by whoop. Tried to drag it over onto the tier list. This is a C plus by default because 3/3 for a 2/2 knight that matters with vigilance is okay. The backup means this could be a 3/3 knight, which is just C plus, or you're giving something else an extra buff and vigilance, which is solid. This is a great little creature, and you want that in your knight deck. Sunder the Gateway. One of the first destroy artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. Right. But specifically non-token artifact or enchantment opponent controls, so you can't pop incubate tokens with this. Which sucks. But sorcery speed, 2 mana is not terrible for a destroy enchantment or artifact, and then you get to incubate off of it. But if you don't have enchantment or artifact to destroy, you can just get a 2/2 out of it. Or transform a bigger incubator token you have and get a 2/2 on the side. This is weirdly like a C plus because of the versatility. Like, it's a 2/2 for 2 at worst. At best, it's blow up a thing may have that could be really valuable and get a 2/2 that you have to pay 2 more for to get the 2/2 for. But that's okay because it's payment plan creatures. Or it's make a 2/2 for 2 that you can get later and transform something better you have. C plus, it's weird. It's weird. It's a good card. All right, Swordsworn Cavalier, pirate lady, but she's a knight, I guess. I thought she was from Ixalan or whatever. All right, 2 mana for a 3/1 knight. That's good. Swordsworn Cavalier has first strike as long as another knight enters the battlefield under your control. Yes. This is a C plus. First strike is great. It helps the aggression so much, especially when you're on curve, because this isn't swinging the first turn it comes in. The next turn, you get to put, say, this guy out of the other common knight there. That makes us a 4/2 with vigilance and first strike. When you play that guy on top of this one, oh, that's good. That's a very good common. Like, I'll happily play 2 mana 3/1 all the time. Upside is just upside. It's icing on the cake. 2 mana 3/1 would normally be a C, but the first strike often enough because there's a lot of knights makes that much better for me. So Knight of the New Coalition, 4 mana 2/2 vigilance knight. The Knight of the New Coalition enters the battlefield. Create a 2/2 white and blue knight creature token with vigilance. That's 2 knights with vigilance that are 2/2s for 4. That's double upside. I'm okay with that. I don't like paying 4 for a 2/2, but you get 2 out of it. I like spreading the love like that. That's a C plus for me too. I technically would like my 4 drops to be bigger, but if you're in the night deck, I think you're going wide and you want triggers and night effects. So there's a lot of good common creatures to fill that slot. Kitkin, Billy Rider, 3 mana, 1/3, which is a weird stat line for a double striking knight. It's been a while since we saw the Kitkins. They're like little people that aren't dwarves, or they're just like little people with spirit connections, glowing eyes and stuff. But it's a knight. It's riding a billy goat. It's adorable. It's got a spear and a little tiny sword. Swings in as a 2/3, which is okay. And there's a lot of counters. I would call this a C. It's fine for the stat line, but on its own, it's not breaking the game. But you could very well make it super strong very easily. Right, I'm Union Clear. What up? Alright. Enduring Bond Warden. 1 mana, 0/1. Backup +1. So when this creature dies, put its counters on target creature you control. So the way I think you're going to play this card most of the time, you're going to play a 2-drop, because I haven't seen any other 1-drop white creatures. Maybe there's a couple blue or a couple colorless ones there, but you're going to play a 2-drop. You're going to hold on to this or draw into it. Font's going to have a 2/2, and you're going to get ready to swing. You're going to throw this on top of it, give it a +1 counter, and when it dies, target creature will take its counters, put them back on this card. Or a different creature you control. It's weird, because if you had a 2/2 and you're swinging into 2/2, they might have just traded it, but if you make it a 3/3, they're probably just not going to block it. If you throw another counter with this ability, they might just not block it, because they don't really care about it. But if you get this out turn 1 and it's a 1/2, that's okay. And then eventually it will put its counters on a bigger creature, so curve wise it's not bad. But it's like a D, not even a 1/1 for 1. And if you don't have a counter on it, its ability doesn't work. It's weird. It could be really good in the +1 counter deck. It's not a knight. It's just mixed up. This art kind of sucks, dude. It's just plain. Attentive Skywarden. 3 mana, 2/2 flag. That's pretty good. That's Phyrexian, which matters to some things. Whenever Attentive Skywarden deals combat damage to a player or battle, transform up to 1 incubator token you control. This is a This is a very good enabler for that incubate deck, because it's a fire. It's hard to block. You have to have incubator tokens, otherwise. But 3-drop, 2/2, 4 that flies for 3 is okay. I put this, and that's exactly the same stat line. This is gonna go in there too. That's a C. It's okay. It's not the thing you put something else in instead of, just on its own. You need to have incubator tokens for it to matter, or Phyrexian things for it to matter, but it's okay. Right. This still has the Spanish names up. Tarkir Duneshifter. It's a white 1/1/2. The same thing as this thing. With less abilities, actually. So this would be like a D-. But you could pay 4 to transform it into a 4/3 Trampler, which is pretty good. Or pay 5 with a green. Paying 5 for this is not great, but it makes this relevant. Paying 4 for this and 2 life for this is okay. Paying 4 if you get a couple counters on this, that's better. This becomes much bigger. This one is a D. This side is like a C+. You get the final one here, which is just the straight up 2/2 for 2 with lifelink. It's a C+. Yay! It's like a good bell curve.
there's a lot of good stuff in this color. There's not that much removal. There's only like 4 pieces of it total. And there's only like really 2 or 3 bombs in it. What you doing? What you doing? You being cute? You being cute? Okay, Cleo. All right. I will this. Alright. I will take a very short break. I'll restart my stream. So this flips over to part 2. And then I save myself the trouble of editing this. And then I will start over on blue. And I'm not going to explain the mechanics because you should have watched this part of it first. So, alright. Be back in 5 minutes.